Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the show. Today, I have for you the Grammy nominated super producer, engineer, songwriter, Otto Botté.
Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to chat sometime.
Of course, Otto, I'm so excited to be chatting with you about your latest projects and just about your career overall. So, first things first, I know you've been releasing a lot of new music over the past few months, but before you became an artist yourself, you worked with a bunch of artists like Enrique Iglesias, Trey Songz, doing a lot of studio work with them. I just wanted to have a little bit of your background shared with us so we can get to know you a little better.
Oh yes, of course. I started here in New York, just studio. They call it Studio Rat, and as an intern, just made my way up and got an opportunity to work with a lot of really talented people on different kinds of projects. Some were recording, some were engineering, mixing, and mastering. So that's been the journey of the past 9 years for me.
That's so amazing, Otto. I was wondering if you could share us a little bit more about your experiences working with huge artists like we mentioned, Enrique Iglesias, Trey Songz, and so many others. Is there anything you can tell us about what you might have learned from them or just your experience in general?
Yes, right timing. I think that's been one of the biggest lessons for me. Just knowing that sometimes you feel like you want that opportunity right away. And when I was first starting, I wanted to work with those big artists off the go, but then I realized the only way to actually be fully confident is to be patient and know that when the opportunity actually comes, you're ready for it. That's where the confidence comes from. And I working with those artists, just having those conversations, hearing their experiences, they all also wanted some of those big breaks and some of those big opportunities, but they only came through when they were ready. And it just reflects back on my career, how I wanted to work with them way earlier, but it only happened when I was actually ready for it.
It's like the perfect timing, God's timing and everything. And I think that's a super important message for you to share. I mean, I know you've experienced it as you just said, but for everybody to just understand that we might want things right away, but it'll happen when we're ready for it and everything. The universe will like
Mhm.
let it in. But that's a super great message. And I want to thank you for sharing that because
Yeah,
it's
of course.
completely positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Otto, you were an engineer, a songwriter, producer for so many years, and then you decided to make the transition to becoming an artist yourself, releasing your own music. I just was wondering what like sparked this desire in you.
Absolutely. And so I've been working for the past 7 years or so with two really good producer friends of mine, Jacuzzi Jefferson and Kevin Kaw. And working with them opened up the spark. It just created the spark again for me to be producing music, playing shows, and being on the stage. But then there was a season where I finally felt like I had something to say. When you're working in a collective, you share a lot of similar ideas and it becomes one voice. But then I realized that I actually have my own voice and that I had something to share. And that's when Otto Botté sparked.
And with your own music that I've been listening to a lot lately, I noticed something that you just cannot miss. You have your very own unique and different sound. And I wanted you to describe it for us because I can't even like describe it myself. It's got like some great electric, modern, good feel vibes, but then also so much soul in it. And like also like all these
Mm.
vibes too. It's just like a mix of a bunch of things.
Yeah, I sometimes just try to figure out the ingredients, like where is it exactly that it comes from. And what I always come back to is 70s golden age era of music. But I go from funk and disco to salsa and merengue. Like those are I think four places for me that a lot of the influence comes from. And then I remember growing up when I was little in elementary school, how the teacher usually just has people dance to the most traditional iconic song, and then there's like the class dance. And for us, that was Totola Momposina, Los Gaiteros de San Jacinto. And I grew up listening to that in my early days. And that's still, it's just still walking with me, those memories and those sounds. And so that's where the drums, all the percussion, all the heavy gaita and the more indigenous sounds come from. It's from those early days dancing in class.
I love that. I haven't heard of those genres before, so I definitely would want to learn more about it. And I want to
Yeah.
know, since you already started touching upon it, growing up in Colombia and all, how do you think that affected you in your now music career?
It it made me dream bigger. I think the fact that it all felt so far to reach, like the reality of living in the States wasn't growing up, wasn't around. Um, and then life started to change. My dad actually decided to move to the States, and that's when it started to seem like a real option for our lives to be in the States and start grabbing some of that influence from the culture, from the sound, from what the United States knows how to do so well, which is music. We know it's one of the driving forces of the world. So yeah, growing up there was um, culturally rich, but it was also repetitive in a sense where everybody was doing the same kind of music. When I was there, it was all about tropi pop. And I don't know if you're familiar with tropi pop, but if you think of Carlos Vives or Fonseca, which
Claro.
are, I think, two big examples of tropi pop, that's when I left, that's what it was popping. Reggaeton was just starting out 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And now that I'm here in New York and I hear reggaeton popping so hard from Colombia, Puerto Rico, and Miami, um, then I feel like the places have switched where tropic pop is not anymore that big influence, but now it's reggaeton.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, that's where it comes from those Carlos Vives days,
Mhm.
early days, fusioning things, fusioning sounds.
Yeah, even in today's music, today's reggaeton, you can always hear like that little hint of like pop and those sounds that existed before them. And that's what made them who they are. And I just love it when they bring in those old sounds into their new music and all. And
Yeah.
hay mucho talento in Colombia. Wow. It all the reggaeton stars, not even just reggaeton. There's so much talent in Colombia. I mean, look, here we have you sitting in front of us. So I'm so glad you got to open up a little bit about that. And what age were you when you first started, like, knowing that you wanted to work in the music industry?
Wow. I was possibly 15. I was still in junior high actually. So maybe 15, 16 years old. I realized this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I got to figure out because there was a lot of frustration next to that dream. It's like I don't know how to do it, but I know that if I can get myself into, I'm going to have a very fulfilled career.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love that for
Yeah.
you. And what was that like, the moment of realization, or what was it? Like I know like when I was in high school, there were always kids like, making drum beats or something, knocking on desks or something. Was
Mhm.
that how you were somewhat?
That was me, the loud kid
Oh,
in the back of the room just slamming away. Yeah.
oh my God, that's amazing. I love that. So what
Yeah.
was this moment of realization then?
Um being in bands and working on so much music with my brother, actually, who is now the creative director for Otto Botté. We were in bands at the time, and I would be sitting for hours in front of the computer making demos with him, and then automatically just feeling frustrated because the demos didn't sound as good as we thought they did. um, that moment of frustration was the realization that I needed to figure out there is a secret. There is something that I don't know that I got to figure out somehow. And I'm going to do it, figuring out how to make these records sound professional.
Mhm.
I moved to the States, and that was the question that I took with me off the plane. I'm like, got off the plane, and now it's time to be here in this city where the music is made. And let's try to figure out how is it that records are professionally made.
And did you figure it out?
I think so. I want to believe so.
I would say so. With your recent music, I would definitely say so. I wanted to see what you'd say. And since moving to the States, how do you think your career and all has changed?
Wow. It's been a long journey. Every year is a new surprise. When I did, you were mentioning the Enrique Iglesias collaboration. And when I did that record in 2018, it felt like a milestone, like something new had started in my life. And the immediate thought is, okay, this record is going to lead to more and more records of that size with that same category. But the reality is that record actually helped me realize how much I need to protect myself working intentionally on records that I'm passionate about. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if it's indie or major. What matters is if I connect with the artist and the song. If I can get those two things under my belt, it's go time. The record is going to be amazing. But if I start dwelling on, oh, this artist is not major, or this artist is not my favorite artist, but I'm still just going to do it for the money, those are the worst ways of going about it. And that's how my career has changed. That's the way it has evolved. Not so much on the things that I'm doing, but more so on the philosophy behind the work that I'm doing.
I
Mhm.
love that because nowadays it's so easy to get caught up in, the amount of followers and this and,
Mhm.
that it's so important. It is important in the music industry and everything. But when you find something you're really passionate about and you can just tell, like, oh, this person has talent, and you can like make your mind up for yourself without seeing all
Yeah,
that and worrying about that, that just immediately, it just changes your perspective on everything. And,
absolutely.
I've come to find that out too myself. Like it's not about, the followers and how many people listen to this person or how big they are. It's not about
Yeah.
that. If you like the music, you like the music, and it's something that you believe in. So I love that you share that with us. Thank you so much for that, Otto.
Yeah.
I love getting to know about your journey and all that, since being in Colombia really early on, making drum beats on the desk and everything, to getting your
Yeah.
big break with Enrique Iglesias, and now making your own music as an artist yourself, Otto. So jumping
Yeah.
into that, you just
Hmm.
released the track recently, Humbara. Can you talk to us
Yes.
a little bit about that? Because I know it's a super special song for you, where you talk about your relationship with God.
Yeah. It's a there's so many places that I can take you on. But the
Take
number
us.
one, yeah, the number one is what it symbolizes, and it's how there can be a relationship between two people and God at the same time, where it becomes this triangle where one person is on this corner, the other person is on this corner, and God is at the center of that triangle. And the closer the two beings start to get in their journey, the closer they get to God. And that's what it was for me, my last relationship. The more her and I started talking about our relationship with God, the more I felt like I got to know her, the closer I felt I was getting to her. And immediately that same day, day after day, at night, I was just going to prayer and realize how much closer I feel to God because I'm having these daily conversations. Even though we have differences, we all have different kinds of relationships with God. It's so unique to each one of us, and it doesn't look alike at all. We sometimes pretend, and sometimes we want it for things to be consistent in our circle, in our relationships. But in reality, it's just so unique to each one of us. And so I learned that in that relationship. And this song became it symbolized all of those conversations where I originally wrote it 4 years ago. She wasn't even in the picture. But then hearing the song back today, still to this day, I hear him singing it back to me. And I feel the relationship, the reality of that relationship in the grooves, in the melodies, in the harmony of the music. It's a very surreal kind of experience and very unique. And that's why, I was saying it's so unique for each one of us, the way we interpret that relationship with God. So that's what Umbara is about in a
Love
nutshell.
it. I love it. I love that you wrote this song 4 years ago, and now is when you're releasing it, because you found yourself coming back to it and everything.
Yeah.
It's so special just to know that you had this under your belt, but you just finally found the right time to release it, with your relationship and all that. It's just beautiful, Otto. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was hesitant to release it because it's one of those songs that you write and you feel good about, but maybe there's not a time for it. You don't know exactly what is the right timing. And I think this takes us back to what we were talking about earlier. Timing is everything in life. And now I feel like I was ready to share the message. I was spiritually mature, emotionally mature enough to sit here with you and tell you the full story without hesitation. Like, I believe this.
I love that. And not only was the timing right for you, but I feel like receiving a song like this with everything going on in the world, it was also perfect timing just to hear a song about somebody sharing their special bond and relationship with God. Perfect timing, Otto, for real.
Thank
Can you
you. Oh
tell
my
us a little
God.
bit
Yeah.
more about how it was like when you were actually writing the song?
Um, Back to the spark of having a voice, working with my two friends, and then figuring out, okay, I got to do something on my own. I started writing the beat first, and then I realized, okay, maybe there's some kind of magic here. I'm just gonna go with the feelings that I'm getting right now, and I started writing the hook, that intro, the Humbara, hey yeah yeah, Umbara yeah yeah, and it originally it didn't mean anything, but I was finally able to start piecing the verse together, piecing the hook, and then realizing, okay, I want this song to be a sonic journey where it takes you through different styles, different sounds, but at the same time, I want for one connecting theme, and the connecting theme is that relationship with God. It was the only thing that I could really write confidently about at the time, and so there is this line in the verse that it says, "Together we get on and get all the nicer weather when you pick me up like if I was made of feathers." And is that lightweight feeling when you're walking with God, when He's by your side, when He's leading the way, everything just feels right, and it's effortless, it's lightweight. That at the time was what I was walking through, and now I reflect back and it feels familiar again. I can relate to that feeling still to this day. So writing that, a lot of times during writing, there's a lot of revisions and you go back and you keep coming back until you finalize the idea. But I remember how quickly that verse came through. It was effortless. I wasn't pushing it. I wasn't trying too hard. It was just honest and genuine.
That's amazing, Otto. And there's also a video to Humbara, and I wanted to
Mhm.
hear you talk about that as well because like the colors, the scenery, it's all so beautiful, and I feel like it perfectly fits with the song. Y también como veo un tranquilidad en ti in the video. So I was
Thank
just
you.
wondering what it was like when you actually recorded
It was hot.
it.
It was the summer, late summer in Maryland. It was maybe 85 degrees and it was really hot. But because I work with my brother, there is this synergy, that chemistry that we just hit the song, hit play. He is ready to get the shot, and I just start improvising. And everything is just genuine. Nothing is rehearsed or too overanalyzed or too pre-produced. Um, the sense of I think the sense of calmness and openness that you perceived comes from that relationship that him and I have and what the song means to us. And so I think those are things that are impossible to fabricate, because even in film, when you have the right director, the right cast, and the right script, you can create that, evoke that feeling. And I think in this case, for us, we had the team and the script and the music to convey that as well. So even when you're trying to do it, it only happens when all the right humans and all the right ingredients are in the room. And in our case, we were outdoors. There was breeze coming through, the light was coming through. It just felt very nature like, the whole all throughout the shoot. And we shot for 3 days, so it wasn't like just one get up and run, but every day we were evaluating, okay, what is the missing shot, what else can we capture, where else can we go. That was sort of, I hope I answer your question, but that was sort of the journey, and how that sense of peace came through. It was just organic.
You definitely did. I think that's exactly what I wanted to know. It's just because it seems like you were so peaceful and you're just like in the desert and all that, or it looks like the desert.
It feels
And
right, it just feels desertic, yeah.
yeah, and it just seemed like you were in your zone. It didn't seem like it was forced or acting, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So hearing you
Hmm.
say how organic and having your brother as part of the team, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I wanted to know why
Thank
it
you.
just seemed like so calm and just natural. That's what it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of
Thank you. That
course,
means
of
a lot.
course.
Yeah.
I
Thank
really
you so much.
appreciate you having released a song like this just for all your listeners and fans and all that. Like I said, especially at times like these where, maybe it's not so easy. We just came out of 2020 into 2021 and,
Hmm.
we're all dealing
Yeah,
with things.
absolutely. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a very charged season for all of us, emotionally, spiritually, financially, career goals wise. And yeah, I feel like Umbara just helps you remember that there needs to be a time, a season in our lives where we can recharge. And a lot of times that recharging for me looks singleness, solitude, on my own, enjoying whether it's nature or enjoying being home. For
Mhm.
New Year's, I stayed home with family and it was a recharging seasons. And sometimes I'm just by myself, completely alone. And that's also recharging. And Humbara and the video specifically, for me, it means going out of the way to be on your own, be intentional by that's what I mean by going out of your way, but being intentional, being alone with God. Sometimes we just need that. We just need somebody to listen to us without judging us, without trying to fix us, without trying to change our minds and convince us otherwise of reality, but just somebody that listens. And to me, that's God. Have a good conversation. Mhm.
So beautiful. I really want to say I can't like express it enough. Like, thank you for sharing this because it feels like it's something so sacred to you. So just having you here talking about it, like the process of writing the song, recording the video, and just sharing a little bit more about your personal relationship with God. It's just really beautiful to hear how like deep it is. I want to thank you again, Otto.
Thank you, Natasha, always for I'm gonna keep saying it, for making the time and for inviting me to be part of this.
Of course, it's such a pleasure. And last but not least, Otto, I just wanted to get a little bit of like maybe like a sneak peek or something. What can you tell us? Like, what can we await from you? More music, new videos?
Yes. So last night I was actually finishing the next single. Finishing. That's never the right thing to say, but because it just feels like you never finish until you have to just submit it, ready for Apple, ready for Spotify, and then you're like, I think it's done. But yeah, I'm working on a new single. I'm also mixing right now, actually, a remix by my good friend Jacuzzi Jefferson. So he did a remix for Mbella, which was the song that came before Humbara last fall. So we're trying to figure out a way to package it all and have it ready for people this semester, hopefully this spring. Yeah, and we got to shoot a music video. So yes, definitely there's a music video on the way for the new single as well. And that's as much as I can share. There's a lot on my mind and a lot of the on the calendar, but for now, those are the for sure's.
That is more than enough for all of us here. That's more than I expected for you to share. So thank
Cool,
you again, Otto.
cool,
Where
cool,
can we
cool.
be on the lookout for all this new music?
Wonderful. Instagram. I think that is the perfect place for me right now to connect with people. I'm active on Facebook and Twitter as well, TikTok as well. So you guys can follow me on all the majors. But Instagram, that's the first place that gets the news.
I love
Yeah,
it. Thank you so much, Otto. Make sure you're on the lookout, guys, because there's more music coming and Umbara is out on all digital platforms.
rock and roll. Thank you guys for having me.